Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Keep Indiana Learning. My name is Melissa Wally, and I'm an innovation coach with Keep Indiana Learning and an EdTech specialist with Hanover Community Schools in Cedar Lake, Indiana. Today, we are discussing Chapter 5 in our Keep Indiana Reading book study series. Whoops, let me grab it here. Here we go. Um, the book we have been reading is Digital for Good by Richard Collada, if you haven't joined in. And chapter 5 is a great one. It dives into the importance of helping students become inclusive digital citizens who use technology to make the online space more welcoming for others. So, this is a little bit of a different perspective than I've really read before. I haven't really seen this. And it's been such a great read. And this chapter did not disappoint. So if this is your first episode, you can catch up with the previous chapters on the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel. Usually, Diana Knox and I host this book study together. However, she could not join today, but instead, we have two fellow innovation coaches, Amy Stevens and Jen Stewart. And so thank you for joining us today, Jen and Amy.
Thanks for having me back. I had a great time last time, so I'm glad to be here. My name's Jen Stewart. I teach 4th, 5th, and 6th grade STEM at Greenfield Central. Prior to this, I taught language arts and social studies for 20 years, so I've been around a while. In addition to teaching, I'm an Apple Learning coach and, of course, innovation coach here with Keep Indiana Learning.
Yay. Hi, everyone. Thank you again for having me back as well. I'm Amy Stevens and excited to be part of this conversation again today. I am a K-5 STEM teacher, also technology integration specialist at South Henry School Corporation in East Central Indiana. I am an Apple Learning coach, just like Jen, as well as an Apple Distinguished Educator, and get to share the amazing platform of Innovation Coach with Keep Indiana Learning, along with Melissa and Jen and our crew. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad you are both back. As we begin this chapter, the first thing that really struck me was about seeing the person behind the belief. And I just love that phrase. And I think that that applies to both physical spaces and digital spaces. But obviously, in the book, we're really thinking more about the digital. And it's something that we really need to do intentionally with children. There's an example in the book about an interaction that happens while driving, which obviously is not an online situation. I know for me, there are times when it can be easy to get frustrated by others' actions on the road and just drive away kind of annoyed at another driver. And in this case, the other driver kind of apologized, um, from car to car, uh, because as we can see each other when we're driving, and so
Mhm.
you can kind of go, oh, I'm sorry, unlike the virtual world. And I think of all the situations where children are observing the adults in the room or the vehicle, and they are always watching and just being little sponges about those reactions and how we respond in different situations. And then that made me think about how we need to be sure that when we're having conversations with children about putting ourselves in other shoes and seeing things from other viewpoints, that now we start to include some examples about doing this in the online space too as our kids get older. And that really will make an impact. um, Mr. Collada talks about how easy it is now for people to avoid seeing the results of their actions in the virtual world. And to be honest, I never really thought about that, but it's so true because we know and we've heard like online comments can be just as hurtful as if they were said face to face. That's true. We've talked about that with kids. But the true difference is if you're thinking about the person that made the comment, that person isn't seeing the reaction or effect of what they say in the same way that they would as if they said it in person. And so it really goes both ways. Like the online comment, but then also the person that made the comment. And
It's
then, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love that we're bringing this to a foreground of how we model interactions in person, and then and reactions and apologies and celebrations, and then of course how we do it in online too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think talking about how we engage with others is important. But then I do think we have to make space for actually practicing this skill in a supervised environment. And I think it truly is like a skill that needs to be practiced. In school, it can start small with like having students make suggestions and comments on their peer work. And that can start, even just with post-its in class on projects, but that needs to move to the digital space. Kids need practice doing that. And you can use any kind of a digital resource. Like I'm thinking about Padlet or whatever resource you feel comfortable with that you use in your class that allows students to then post comments or thumbs up, all of that. Give kids practice. They have to have practice. They have to have a rubric and guidelines about what's important when they're engaging with one another, because they're going to make mistakes, but that's how they learn to engage positively online. And we have to afford them the opportunity to practice and make the mistakes in a safe place rather than out in the world of strangers.
I've tried to model these behaviors, like you said, like when we use a digital platform like Padlet or like an Earpod Collaborate board. We'll start with talking about how we even start our post. We make it relevant, related to the topic, purposeful. And then if you choose to reply, because you don't have to reply, if you choose to reply to someone else's comment, it must move the conversation forward. So saying brain rot or one word answers like cool or that's dumb, they don't move that conversation forward productively. And I tell you what, when you model it, the kids will do it and they will understand it. It is fun to watch them start to learn how to ask a question productively or to make a response that is meaningful. And they can do it. My fourth graders do an excellent job at it. So we know it's there and they can do it.
I love that.
I had the bonus of, I'm so sorry. I've had the bonus of teaching kindergarten through sixth grade. And when I had sixth graders, it was unbelievable to me how quickly they would drop an inappropriate emoji or something in like a Google Classroom, like public feed or something. And I'm like, whoa, 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 like we are in sixth grade. And so it was very quick to me to say like, oh my gosh, we've got to teach, we've got to model this for children, how to be in this space and how to treat each other with kindness and actually listen. We teach them, me being in the elementary, I'm around, so many of the wonderful work that a lot of our teachers and social workers and guidance counselors are doing with kids. My turn to talk, your turn to talk. How did those words make you feel? The zones of regulation and so forth, right? But in the digital space, we just kind of like assume that they're going to apply all of that. Yet they can't see each other. All they can see is maybe a heart that's filled or empty, maybe the absence of an emoji or a comment. And I say absence because sometimes kids are looking for the reaction. And when it's not there, that's hurtful. A comment that's either positive or very dry, and it was supposed to be positive, but it was so dryly written in the person's interpretation that is upsetting. And so one of the things that I did with kids was called tag. And what you do is anytime a child practices posting in I would say a controlled online conversation environment, and there's this, place for kids to respond, they would have to respond with basically a minimum of 3 sentences. And it was tell the person something about what they posted, ask them a question, give them a suggestion for next steps. So in my, depending upon the subject area that you're teaching, it was super interesting to see how long feedback took when we were given not only a recipe, but a way to sort of stop and think like, okay, how am I going to make this other person feel about what they said? I'm going to tell them something. I'm going to ask them a question to know more and then give them a suggestion. So I thought this was a really good idea and I started doing it. And I was like, whoa, we haven't even practiced in person, like let alone online. So we modeled for each other in different situations, and I shared with their other teachers, like what we were doing. And some of the conversations that came out of this were really powerful. I mean, kiddos would be like, I see that you are saying this, but I have to ask. Or like, have you thought about looking in these other areas for next steps? It was just super interesting. And it gave them the opportunity to actually see that person, kind of like what Mr. Culata was talking about, when you get to see the person driving and give the reaction and then also give an apology in that case. Like, oops, my fault. I'm sorry. I'm the one that's wrong. We're showing them like, okay, you have an impact. And even though those digital spaces, you can't always see the impact, this could maybe help make it better. And I say better, meaning it's not going to be perfect, but it could be a way that they could, they could use that information to apply in other situations. So maybe when they get their social media account, maybe when they, are off. And so that leads me to think, Jen, I know you do a lot of work with students and especially on digital platforms, but, do we really have spaces that give that authentic audience for allowing these real life interactions and tag moments to happen?
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you said that they are giving these authentic responses to one another, almost like little professors, like, mimicking what they've heard the teacher do and say. And, you know, that's the best form of learning is teaching someone else. And really that's what they're doing. They're looking for that in their peers' work. And, that's genuine. That's great. Um, so now flipping to something else, when we think about what we view when we go online,
Mhm.
it's not we we have these algorithms and it affects what we see. It's gone are the days where you just search and you get what you're looking for. Um, or the algorithm is driving what we see, even to the point where you get these pop-ups and something's at the bottom covering up part of your page, and you have to physically X out of it to get rid of it. Um, it's forced upon you. And it's not even just ads anymore. It's your streaming platforms, your social media, suggested items to purchase. All of this is driven by our viewing habits.
Mhm.
And when you start watching videos about something, it's like once you search for something and then you feel like, gosh, I'm seeing this everywhere. Everywhere I go, I just keep seeing this. It's like it's in my brain. Well, no, it's your algorithm. Um, and so with that, all of these virtual spaces are able to infer who we are as people. It can figure us out. It can figure out our certain characteristics, our ethnicity and gender, personality traits and intelligence, even our happiness and much more, all based on our viewing habits and our clicks and our likes. And like I think about, this has happened in my household before where somebody accidentally chooses the wrong Netflix profile and goes in and watches a bunch of shows, and somebody else is quite upset because their algorithm is ruined. Um, it's messed up their feed, and I understand. Um, but, but in all seriousness, like this information allows these platforms to continue to feed us what it
Mhm.
thinks we want. And what it actually is doing is it's giving extreme versions of what it thinks we want. So um, we're getting this less and less diverse digital diet as we go along. And it really is something we have to be
Yeah.
aware of. But, I it's again, this has been so eye opening for me like, how do we bring this to our children? Like, how do we let them know this? One way, I know, Amy, you've done some of this, but like one way is to talk about it and model the effort of making sure that when we're choosing things, news, whatever it is, that we're choosing from a variety of sources, and help keep our kids from getting this extreme content, and keep our feeds from being extreme, and allow us to have this diversified digital diet.
Well, I can tell you that my niece has ruined my music playlist algorithm permanently. She has introduced me to some new artists, but it is definitely ruined forever. Last week we talked about how false information is 70% more likely to be retweeted or reshared to different platforms. And because of our algorithm, your whole platform could end up being completely full of that misinformation. So that is something that we really have to be aware of, and be cognizant of that, and make sure that, first of all, what we're sharing is actually real information. And again, we know that's harder now because of AI, but it is something, again, that you might not even think about, because those are the things that you like and those are the things that are showing up. But we still have to have that diverse digital diet.
I love that. I do love a good playlist. And I love that Netflix thing. I oftentimes think about that when I'm like in an Airbnb and somebody is still signed in on the television. And I'm like, oh, somebody's going to get Barbie Life in the Dream House, just something silly. And I may or may not be the one that goes into like ghost mode or incognito mode to like look up plane tickets so that it doesn't come back on my account. But anyways, I digress. Jen, I love that you just said that, because, in thinking about setting up my kiddo's first Instagram profile, I had learned I had to look in the mirror at my followers and what was being fed to me. And I don't know that really anyone or anything had forced me to do that until I was like, wait a minute, why do I always get, this that looks like this, or this person that looks like this? And I thought, where's the culture? Like, where's the diversity? And so when my husband and I were setting up her Instagram account alongside with her, we talked about this, and, and just making sure that, like, politically and religiously and even food and, and shopping. And then of course, like, when it comes to like real good conversation and people that are out there, like really trying to spread some real truth, making sure that she's got the skills to be able to vet through that, to know what is real and how to maybe agree to disagree too sometimes. Because I think, Melissa, you and I have talked about with like Adam Grant, like, it's so lovely to have a whole table of conversation of people, I'm sorry, and their voices and opinions at your table, of that conversation in your head, and be able to say, like, you know what, I respect what you're saying. I'm not sure that I'm completely on board, but I absolutely hear you. I see where you're coming from, and I understand.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I love that you mentioned casually that you and your husband sat and set up that account with her. Like,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And it's like, as we're coaching our kids through this inclusivity in the digital world, I think it's important to be careful not to assume that they always know how to react. Like, if they get into an uncomfortable digital environment, like we talk to kids about that. Like, if somebody's bullying someone, what do you do? But when it comes down to it, if someone's being unkind, do they know how to react? And if they choose to do nothing, this is being a bystander, just like in real life. And these situations do need to be discussed and explained to them. And it seems like a great opportunity to role play some of these experiences, with them, to see, like, it's okay to do this. We hear so many stories about online bullying and negative comments being dished out. And I can say that I see my fair share of ugly comments and anger on social media with adults. But is it the majority of people? Not at all. We have to remember and teach others to counteract the negative comments with, uplifting, positive comments, and I'm not talking about this toxic positivity. There's definitely a difference, but sharing the good is always, I think, welcome by everyone.
Yes. See the good, be the good.
And and saying along that lines, one of the section titles in the book is "Hate is contagious, but so is kindness," and it really does not take much. It takes one person or two people to step up and turn that conversation around, to go from "I'm not going to engage, I'm going to watch this," I'm going to get the popcorn out and watch what's happening. But if you stop being that bystander and you step in and you turn it in a realistic, positive way, the conversation can change very quickly. And so then on page 102, the author says, "We aren't teaching our children to include others because it's the nice thing to do. We're teaching them their knowledge is limited and that one of the best ways they can fill the gaps in their understanding is by learning from others whose experiences and perspectives are different from their own." And this is exactly, Amy, what you've done when you've helped your children set up their social media, understanding those different viewpoints. And so we can make our social media a place where different opinions can be heard and respected, unless you're an IFU fan, but just kidding, Amy. Just kidding.
Hey, I have sent you some UK things.
I know. Yeah, but then you send me the IU things and it junks up my feed. And we both have Duke on our feed now too. So
We do. Oh, Melissa, it is a time, let me tell you. At the end of the day, we love college basketball.
yes. And also, and this is a great message that we can do because we know that that's such a heated thing. We do respect each other's opinions and feelings, and we're very good about it. So, and I think that we model that well for the other people in our lives.
That's great. That's amazing. Amazing.
I love it. Well, I know that there's some great opportunities in this book at the end of each chapter to be able to have like some next steppers, right? And to talk about like, okay, this was just a short part of this book. What comes next? So we encourage you as you are thinking about, just this inclusivity topic and moving forward, what changes can you make to ensure that all voices are represented in your classroom's digital spaces? And so, if educators, like, we encourage you to think about all the voices that are sitting at the tables and the desks in your room and start there. And then think about grade level, and then think about school wide, and then think about maybe partnering up, like Jen and I have connected, grade levels together and so forth. And just really kind of starting slow and small to get bigger. And if you're part of a book club, like we are, be thinking about how to share these thoughts and ideas with each other, and just to keep this great conversation going. This was a really good chapter.
Yeah, and so as usual, as a wrap up, we like to leave you with a challenge. And our challenge is to create a space for underrepresented voices. One way you might do this is to use a digital storytelling tool. And my go-to is usually Book Creator, but there are many options. And have students share a story or tradition or experience. And, use that opportunity to highlight student choice and cultural identity. And then share examples with staff or on your class platform. And it's such a powerful way to model the importance of having a welcoming online space for others.
Yeah.
And here we are at the end of the episode. And I'd like to give a big thank you to Amy and Jen for joining in today's conversation. You never know who our guests might be. So be sure to join us in 2 weeks for chapter 6, which focuses on being engaged. Keep reading, everyone.
Thank you.